The footage shows the 28-year-old rapper leaping from his car on Interstate 35, desperately running as a masked gunman chases him down. The clip, which has gone viral, has reignited grief and outrage, pulling the city back into the raw pain of losing one of its own. New footage shows Mo3's brazen murder on highway. Plenty of folks had tuned into Yella Beezy's bond hearing on Thursday, March 27, 2025, expecting to hear new details from prosecutors to lay out their case against Beezy. However, as the hearing went on, viewers were stunned by the airing of a new dashcam footage of Mo3's murder, a chilling clip of the 28-year-old rapper fleeing his car on a Dallas highway, only to be chased and gunned down in broad daylight. The morning of November 11, 2020 began like any other for Mo3. Unbeknownst to him, it would be his last. He had just left a female companion's home and was driving along Interstate 35 near the Dallas Zoo. But he wasn't alone on that highway. Two masked men in a black Chevrolet Camaro were tailing his every move, as the new dash cam shows. Their mission was deadly, and their plan was already in motion. As Mo3 cruised down the freeway, the black Camaro suddenly accelerated, pulling up beside him. It was clear this wasn't just another passing car. This was a calculated ambush. Sensing danger, Mo3 swerved his vehicle sharply to the right, his tires screeching as he tried to break free from the pursuers. But in the chaos of rush hour traffic, there was nowhere to run. Dashcam footage from a nearby vehicle would later reveal the chilling scene. Instead of trying to drive off, Mo3 threw his car into park and jumped out, darting toward the passenger side as if reaching for something, likely a weapon. But before he could grab it, the Camaro's door swung open. A masked gunman clad in dark clothing and gripping an assault rifle stormed toward him with deadly intent. Mo3's instincts kicked in. With no time to defend himself, he turned and sprinted down the highway, weaving between moving vehicles as panicked drivers tried to steer clear of the unfolding nightmare. His feet pounded against the pavement as he ran for his life, but his assassin was faster. The first shot rang out, echoing through the morning air. Then another, and another. The gunfire tore through the freeway, sending nearby motorists ducking for cover. In a matter of seconds, Mo3 was struck, his body crumpling to the ground as the masked shooter continued his attack. By the time the final bullet found its mark, Mo3 had been hit 9 times. As quickly as the execution had begun, it was over. The gunman dashed back to the waiting Camaro, leaping inside before the vehicle screeched off into the distance. The black car vanished from the highway, leaving behind only chaos and a dying man. For several agonizing minutes, Mo3 lay motionless on the pavement, his blood pooling beneath him as stunned bystanders rushed to his side. Some attempted to administer CPR, their desperate efforts overshadowed by the harsh reality of his wounds. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second, but help was too late. Overhead, news helicopters circled the scene, capturing haunting aerial footage that would soon flood television screens and social media feeds. Mo3 was just 28 years old, a rising star of the Dallas rap scene. He had built a name for himself with his raw storytelling and authentic lyrics. Now, his voice was silenced forever. Fans, friends, and family were left in disbelief, mourning the brutal and public execution of one of the city's most promising artists. In the hours following Mo3's murder, the streets of Dallas and the internet erupted with speculation. Rumors flew like wildfire, and one name sat at the center of it all: Yella Beezy. Mo3 and Yella Beezy had been locked in a heated feud long before that fatal day. Their beef had been plastered all over social media, diss tracks, and street talk. So when Mo3 was assassinated in broad daylight, it wasn't surprising that many immediately looked Beezy's way. And Yella didn't help his case. Instead of laying low, he hopped on Instagram, making it clear that he wasn't born. His comment section exploded with fans demanding answers. But rather than address the accusations, Beezy played it cool, acting oblivious. His silence only made him look more suspicious. But Beezy wasn't the only one catching heat. Trap boy Freddie, another Dallas rapper and a longtime Mo3 rival, did himself no favors either. Just minutes after the highway shooting, he posted a video on Instagram, stuck in the same traffic jam caused by Mo3's murder. Sirens blared in the background as he casually said, "Freeway blocked out." He later claimed it was just a coincidence, but to many, it felt like he was taunting the situation.
Man, what got the monkey? Freeway blocked out the Josh. Get a damn guy.
Then, just hours later, Freddie added fuel to the fire by posting tributes to his fallen homies. While he never mentioned Mo3 directly, the timing was eerie. Some fans saw it as him celebrating the hit, and Freddie didn't stop there. He later declared, "It's time to celebrate." Meanwhile, Go Yayo, another Texas rapper with ties to the beat, also mocked Mo3's death. And someone on Facebook said they wished he had been the one killed instead. Yayo's response was chill. "I'm gonna live forever." He signed off with #murdergang, making it clear he had no sympathy for Mo3. Even though there was no hard proof connecting any of these rappers to the hit, their reactions painted an ugly picture. The way they laughed and celebrated left Mo3's supporters furious. It was enough to convince some that Beezy, Freddie, or Yayo had inside knowledge about the murder. And in the days that followed, Dallas turned into a war zone. Even Boozy, Mo3's mentor and frequent collaborator, wasn't safe. He traveled to Dallas to attend a vigil for Mo3, but while there, someone opened fire, hitting him in the leg. The message was clear: nobody was going to touch him. With the streets on fire and public pressure mounting, the Dallas Police Department knew they had to move fast. They needed a suspect, and they got one. On December 10, 2020, nearly a month after Mo3's murder, police arrested 22-year-old Q-on Dontrell White, an aspiring rapper better known as FCG Vanzo Bloom. Authorities received an anonymous tip that put White at the scene of the crime. But it wasn't just word of mouth that got him caught. Police had phone records, surveillance footage, and social media receipts linking him to the hit. And White didn't exactly keep a low profile. Just 2 days before Mo3's murder, he had posted a picture on Instagram flexing stacks of cash and a rifle, captioning, "He put a bag on him, now I'm up." Looking back, the post seemed like a direct reference to a payment he had allegedly received to carry out the assassination. Then 2 weeks after the hit, White was spotted at a jewelry store, flaunting large amounts of cash. Surveillance footage also placed a car matching the suspect vehicle at a location connected to White. The evidence was stacking up. Even after his arrest, White continued to embrace his newfound reputation. From behind bars, he dropped music previews, spitting lyrics about spraying bullets from a car, a chilling reminder of how Mo3 was killed. But what really caught the streets' attention was White's connection to Yella Beezy. Shortly after his arrest, old photos resurfaced showing White hanging out with Beezy. While it wasn't concrete proof of Beezy's involvement, it was enough to keep the whispers going. And Beezy's behavior only fueled more suspicion. As 2020 came to an end, he took to Instagram to celebrate, posting, "I'm putting my haters in the dirt." Given the circumstances, the message felt way too close to home. 4 months after White's arrest, police made another move. On April 23, 2021, they arrested Devin Maurice Brown, a Dallas native, charging him in connection with Mo3's murder. Investigators believe Brown had his own personal issues with Mo3, possibly over a woman. But beyond that, phone records showed that he had been tracking Mo3's movements in the hours leading up to the hit. Not only that, but Brown had been in constant communication with Q-on White before the murder. When police raided Brown's home, they found an AK-47 hidden in his closet, $3,200 in cash, and illicit substances. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together. With White and Brown both behind bars, authorities were confident they had the 2 shooters responsible for Mo3's death. As the dust settled and Mo3's killer sat behind bars, one question refused to die: who ordered the hit? For many, the answer seemed obvious: Yella Beezy. Despite the whispers, police never had enough concrete evidence to move on Beezy. The case against White and Brown was built on surveillance footage, phone records, and an anonymous tip. But when it came to Beezy, there was nothing that could legally tie him to the murder. For years, Beezy walked free, seemingly untouchable. He kept dropping music, living life like the case was nothing but a distant memory. But almost 5 years later, just when he must have thought he got away with it, the past came knocking. Police arrived at Yella Beezy's doorstep, this time with an arrest warrant for capital murder. The case against Yella Beezy. For nearly 5 years, speculation swirled around the November 11, 2020 murder of Dallas rapper Mo3. The shooting, which took place on a busy freeway in broad daylight, was widely believed to be a targeted hit. Many suspected that Yella Beezy, one of Mo3's biggest rivals, was involved, but there was never enough concrete evidence to charge him until now. On March 20th, 2025, authorities arrested Yella Beezy, real name Marquise DeAndre Conway, and charged him with capital murder for remuneration, meaning he was accused of paying for the killing. According to court documents, Beezy allegedly hired Q-on White, a 22-year-old known for his connections to street activity, to execute Mo3. For years, the case against Yella Beezy remained cold, despite lingering suspicion. Investigators had already arrested and charged Q-on White and Devin Brown Jr. in the weeks following Mo3's murder, but the question remained: who ordered the hit? The turning point came when new witness testimony and financial records surfaced, allegedly tying Beezy to the crime. Prosecutors revealed this evidence during his bond reduction hearing, laying out the details of their case. One of the most damning pieces of testimony came from a state witness who claimed to have been present during a conversation about the payment for Mo3's murder. According to this witness, the discussion happened just days after Mo3's death in November 2020.
A state witness will testify to being present for a conversation about the payment for the murder of another noble. This conversation took place in the days following Mr. Noble's murder in November of 2020.
The witness not only identified Beezy as part of the conversation, but also provided specific details about the payment amount and who was responsible for making and receiving it. Additionally, authorities reviewed Beezy's bank records, which showed that he withdrew $40,000 shortly after Mo3's murder. Prosecutors argued that this amount matched the payment referenced by the witness, further suggesting that Beasley had funded the hit. One of the key reasons Beasley had remained a suspect in Mo3's murder for so long was his connection to Q and White. White, who was arrested in December 2020, had long been suspected of carrying out the shooting, but prosecutors needed more than just speculation to link Beasley to the crime. When White was first arrested, police recovered 44 shell casings from the crime scene, all from the same caliber firearm. Surveillance footage showed White chasing Mo3 down the freeway before fatally shooting him. However, at the time, there was no direct evidence connecting Beasley to White's actions. Until now, the newly obtained witness testimony, combined with the financial record, provided prosecutors with the missing link. Beasley's withdrawal of $40,000 and his alleged presence at the discussion regarding Mo3's murder were enough to secure an indictment for capital murder. During his bond reduction hearing, prosecutors laid out their case in detail. The state submitted several exhibits into evidence, including State's Exhibit 1 and 2, probable cause affidavits for Q and White and Devin Brown. State's Exhibit 3, a video of the offense, which allegedly showed White carrying out the murder. State's Exhibit 4, bond conditions placed on Beasley on March 21st, 2025. State's Exhibit 5, a pretrial services risk assessment scoring Beasley's likelihood of fleeing. State's Exhibit 6, Beasley's financial affidavit showing his access to large sums of money. Prosecutors also revealed that Beasley had between $800,000 and $900,000 across his checking and savings accounts, which they argued indicated he had the financial means to arrange and pay for a hit. Despite Beasley's attorneys arguing that he had no prior felony convictions and was not a flight risk, the judge initially set his bond at $2 million. However, Beasley's defense team pushed for a reduction, claiming he was a lifelong Dallas County resident and that the high bail amount was excessive. The court ultimately agreed to lower his bond to $750,000, and Beasley was released the following morning under strict conditions. Upon his release, Beasley was placed under house arrest with GPS monitoring, random drug and alcohol testing, a ban on possessing weapons, a prohibition on contacting witnesses, victims, or co-defendants, a requirement to seek court approval before traveling outside of Dallas and Denton County. Still, despite securing his temporary freedom, Beasley's legal battle is far from over. This was not Beasley's first run-in with the law. Over the years, he had faced multiple arrests and legal issues, including February 2021, arrested for unlawful carrying of a weapon after being stopped in a bulletproof SUV. August 2021, arrested on gun and drug charges in Dallas. November 2021, arrested in Plano, Texas for an outstanding misconduct warrant, and in May 2022, arrested again due to a judge ruling that his previous bail was insufficient, raising it to $1 million. He was also involved in civil lawsuits, including one where he and Chris Brown were accused of assaulting 4 men after a concert. Although no criminal charges were filed in that case, it further damaged Beasley's reputation. Meanwhile, the arrest of Yella Beasley reignited discussions about Mo3's murder. Many in the Dallas hip-hop community had long suspected Beasley's involvement, especially after a photo surfaced of him as one of the suspects following the murder. Mo3's mother, Nicole Williams Noble, took to social media calling Beasley's indictment justice. The post quickly gained traction, with fans expressing relief that someone was finally being held accountable for Mo3's death. One user commented, "I'm so glad you can finally have peace." With Beasley now facing trial for capital murder, his future looks uncertain. Under Texas law, capital murder is punishable by life in prison without parole or even the death penalty. While Beasley maintains his innocence, the prosecution has built a compelling case against him, backed by witness testimony, financial evidence, and forensic findings. The trial is expected to be one of the most high-profile cases in Dallas hip-hop history, as it may finally provide closure for Mo3's family and fans. But for Beasley, the battle is just beginning. Meanwhile, as shocking as this new revelation about Mo3's murder and Beasley's involvement seems to be, cases of rappers being victims of targeted hits aren't really new in the industry. In fact, it has led to the death of many talented young rappers in the industry who were just about to take over the industry, robbing fans of their creative streak just as they were reaching their prime. Other rappers killing in targeted hits. Mo3's brazen murder is a story that's all too common in rap and drill, where rivalries or gang ties turn deadly. Besides him, some rappers have fallen into this abyss. One is Charles Jones, better known as Julio Fulio, who didn't see 27. It was June 23rd, 2024, and he was in Tampa celebrating his birthday. Things started going sideways when he got booted from an Airbnb for having too many people. He shifted to a home 2 suites hotel, figuring it would be a quiet spot to keep the party going. But in the parking lot, 3 guys rolled up, 2 carrying rifles with those brass catchers to hide their tracks, one with a pistol tricked out with an extended clip. They let loose, firing over 30 rounds rounds. Fulio caught the worst of it and didn't pull through. 3 others with him got hit but made it. Security cameras caught the whole thing, showed how the shooters had been tailing him, biding their time before they pounced. The why goes back to Jacksonville, where Fulio was from. He ran with a crew called 6 Block, or KTA, killed them all. And they'd been locked in a blood feud with rival groups ATK and 1200 for years. It kicked off in 2017 when his cousin got killed, and it never let up. Fulio didn't help things. He dropped tracks bragging about their losses, throwing fuel on the fire. They'd come for him before. A shooting in Houston in 2020 left him grazed, and in 2023, he took a bullet in the foot back home. Each time he dodged the Reaper, but in Tampa, his luck ran dry. People close to the scene say his habit of taunting rivals on Instagram and in his rhymes painted a bullseye on his back. Tampa police moved quick after the shooting. By July 2024, they'd rounded up 4 suspects in Jacksonville: Sean Gathright, 18, Alicia Andrews, 21, Isaiah Chance Jr., 21, and Rashad Murphy, 30. They're all looking at charges for murder and setting it up. Cops say Andrews and Chance were the scouts, following Fulio around and tipping off Gathright and Murphy to pull the trigger. They've got solid proof: traffic cams, phone pings, even some text messages plotting it out. But there's a 5th guy still out there, a loose end that's keeping things messy. Right now, the 4 are sitting in jail, waiting for trial. The case is crawling along. Prosecutors are stacking evidence, but no one's saying when it'll hit court. It's a slow burn, and folks are wondering if they'll ever catch the last piece of the puzzle. Fulio's chapter closed hard, but it's just one page in a bigger book. Out in LA, Nipsey Hussle's heartbreaking murder story had unfolded 5 years earlier. Nipsey Hussle, Ermias Asghedom to his mom, was 33 when it all went down on March 31st, 2019. He was chilling outside his Marathon clothing store in South LA, a spot he'd built up in his own neighborhood. A guy named Eric Holder Jr. strolled up, and they chopped it up for a minute. Didn't seem like much, just 2 dudes talking. But then Holder walked off, only to double back with a semi-automatic and a revolver in hand. He unloaded, popping off at least 10 shots. Nipsey took hits to his chest and back. Bullets ripped through his lungs and snapped his spine. Holder even kicked him in the head as he lay there before peeling out. 2 other people nearby caught stray rounds but hung on. Nipsey didn't. What sparked it was simple but heavy. Nipsey and Holder both rolled with the rolling 60s Crips, so they weren't strangers. That day, Nipsey mentioned hearing Holder might have been talking to cops, a snitching rumor that's like a death sentence where they're from. Holder didn't take it well. Prosecutors say he stewed on it, grabbed his guns, and came back to make it right in his own mind. Some folks think Nipsey's growing fame, his Grammy nods, his push to fix up the community, put him on a bigger stage for trouble. But really, it was that quick back and forth that flipped the switch. Holder's lawyer tried to spin it as a heat of the moment thing, but the planning said otherwise. Cops didn't waste time. Holder was in cuffs by April 2nd, 2019. They had him dead to rights with witness statements and store cameras showing every move. He got slapped with murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and a gun charge, but he swore it wasn't on purpose. Didn't matter. The trial kicked off, and by July 2022, an LA jury called it guilty of first-degree murder. Sentencing came February 2023. 60 years to life. As of now, he's locked up tight, and unless he pulls an appeal out of somewhere, that's where it ends. It's one of the few times these cases wrapped up fast. A clean cut in a world full of loose threads. Nipsey's death left a hole in LA, but the story wasn't done crossing the map. In Memphis, young Dolph would walk into his own trap 2 years later. Young Dolph, born Adolph Thornton Jr., was 36 and picking up some sweets on November 17, 2021. He stepped into Makeda's homemade cookies in Memphis, a regular stop for him, when 2 guys in masks jumped out of a stolen white Mercedes parked nearby. They didn't hesitate, blasting over 20 rounds through the shop's front window. Dolph got hit 22 times, chest, arms, back, and dropped right there on the floor. It was the middle of the day, all on tape, in a city where he'd made his name not just with rhymes, but with handouts to kids and families. No one's nailed down the exact reason, but it's got roots. Dolph built Paper Route Empire on his own terms, dodging big labels and brushing off threats. He'd survived before. 100 shots fired at him in Charlotte in 2017. Another close call in LA later that year. This time, prosecutors point to Hernandez Govan as the guy who set it up, maybe over some rap rivalry or street static that never got aired out. Dolph's way of doing things, loud, proud, and independent, kept him in someone's sight. People in Memphis still talk about how he'd give away cash and cars, but that didn't shield him when it counted. 3 names popped up in the aftermath. Justin Johnson, 23, and Cornelius Smith Jr., 32, got picked up in January 2022, charged with pulling the trigger. Govan, 43, got nabbed later that year for putting it together. Johnson's already cooked, convicted in September 2024, handed life with no parole. Smith, still in the hot seat, his trial's rolling now, and he's admitted he shot Dolph, chasing a $100,000 payout that turned into $800. Govan's waiting for his turn, slated for late 2025, with lawyers picking through hours of footage and witness stories. It's moving, but not fast. Half solved, half hanging. Fulio, Nipsey, and Dolph walk the same tightrope as Mo3. Lives snuffed out by plans, not accidents. Fulio's killers hunted him across Tampa. Nipsey snapped over over a quick word. And Dolph's got blasted over a cookie run. It's beefs, gang, or just shining too bright in a game that doesn't forgive. Julio's crew sits in jail with no trial date. Nipsey's shooters locked up for good, and Dolph's case is split. 1 down, 2 to go. But here's where it twists. Every time a gavel drops, the beat keeps playing. These aren't endings. They're echoes. Somewhere tonight,